Hello and welcome back to Buckle Up. I'm Harry King and this is a KGM Torres, but it's not like any Torres we've had on the channel before. This one is all-wheel drive. Let's begin with what I believe is a real high point of this vehicle, the aggressive off-road styling. So you've got a Jeep-esque multi-bar element up here on the front, but this is not a grille. This is all solid and filled in. The actual grille is down here, looking very rough and tough in this black plastic. Down at the bottom, you've got a silver brush guard, although it's really more for show than anything else, and this red element to remind you of a kind of snatch tow hook that you would get on a proper full-size off-roader. You've got these high lighting elements here. These do actually have the headlights in them as well as the daytime running lights. And then lower down you have these fog lights which come in these interestingly styled almost utility pods. They look like they should pop out and fill with petrol or something, but they don't. Down the side you get these sort of grab handles on the bonnet which are styled to look like the sort of attachment point for a rope you might attach to the bonnet to keep branches off the windscreen when off-roading. Big black plastic cladding around the wheels as well, although these wheels, I will say, are too big for this to be considered a serious off-roader. And because the all-wheel drive is only available on trims K40 and K50, that's mid and top spec, you can't get this with small wheels, which I feel is a weird decision for the all-wheel drive model. I like the way that they've styled this car. I think they've done quite a good job of hiding the fact that they've raised the roofline in the second row to give rear seat passengers more space. You have this huge solid element here though, which looks very good and stylish, puts me in mind of a Land Rover Discovery Sport actually, but it does cause a bit of an issue with rear visibility. Round at the back, we come to the part of the car that I feel is most stylistically confused. So you've got this side handle here, you've got this kind of cut-out design to look like somewhere you'd mount a wheel. So clearly you're thinking this is going to be a big side-opening tailgate, but it's not. If I pull this, it's a conventional boot lid. I'm actually going to stop that there and close it. As I just quickly wanted to mention the badging. So we've got Torres and all-wheel drive in large letters. Down here, KGM, that is the only place on the outside that they've put their name. And here is a tow bar, because this can tow 1.5 tons, which is much less than diesel rivals. Anyway, I'll open this back up again, just point you to these lights, which come in similar off-roady clusters to those front fog lights. I think they look quite tough and mean. In here, class-leading boot space, 703 litres. That's some good stuff. And also, even though I do get a bit bothered by the faux wheel carrier on the boot, this does at least come with a space saver spare wheel. Although I'm not sure what the point of that is, because I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to run a space saver on an all-wheel drive system. You've also got a little bit of underfloor storage space. You've got a couple of pockets to either side of the boot as well, with some straps to keep things in place. But otherwise, no hooks or anything else. It's quite a smooth boot area. There is a 12-volt socket in here. And of course, you can drop the middle seats down and then you get well over 1,500 litres of storage space, which is very good indeed. Let's find out though if those seats are very good indeed for passengers. Now we're really going to start hitting the Torres' strengths. So the space back here is exceptional. This seat is in my driver's position. I have loads of legroom. I have loads of headroom thanks to that intelligent roof design. The seats themselves, the materials are very, very nice. The materials are let down a little bit on the doors, so very, very hard plastic here. There is a bit of soft touch under my elbow, but otherwise quite utilitarian. I do, though, have window blinds. You probably can't see me anymore, it's so dark today, but there you go. I've got air vents, I've got power sockets down here, 2 USB-Cs and a little cubby. I've got big seat back pockets and a small phone holder in them as well. I've got this kind of big hook area where you can have attachments, or you could rest a tablet in it if you want to watch that from the rear seats. And very Korean this, I can adjust the front passenger seat from here in the back if I was being chauffeured around to give myself lots and lots of legroom if I require it. I've also got a centre armrest with cup holders in it, and it does top here, and it's nicely padded. It's actually quite comfortable. No through loading though, and the seats do split 60-40. We've also got nice big door pockets with a couple of cutouts that would be good for bottles. Isofix just exposed on the seats as well, nice and easy to attach to, and the doors open very wide, and they're very, very rectangular and square. So space feel in here, I'm going to say, is very good. And as an adult, there are very few cars in this segment that I would be as happy in the back. Maybe the Honda CR-V, but that is an absolutely humongous car. Calling that a C-segment crossover is really a stretch. This definitely is though. Let's see what it's like in the front. I'm going to start with the design up here because I do think it's really rather good. I like the elements. I like this copper that runs throughout the interior, including in the stitching. There is a downside to that, unfortunately. Much like in the back, if you look around but a little bit, some of the materials are quite hard and feel quite cheap. Now, obviously, I don't know how long-lived this interior will be. I can't say that. It's still a relatively new car, but it just doesn't give that feel of quality like you might get from some of the rivals. It's the same with the door. The speaker covers are plastic. There's just little things like that, but I do love the way it looks. There's another reason I love the way it looks. It's very, very uncluttered, but that also has a downside. This is the infotainment. It's two screens together. It's a very normal setup these days, but usually there'd at least be some shortcut buttons here, or maybe some permanent buttons down the bottom of the screen. This has nothing. I've got a pull down menu at the top here. That has my off-road driving buttons on it and my drive mode. And then if I pull from the side, I get a climate shortcut menu. But if I go into Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, I can't pull across from the side anymore. I might be able to be supposed to do that, but it just doesn't work. So you have to leave Android Auto or Apple CarPlay in order to use your heated seats, your ventilated seats, your climate controls, your windscreen and rear screen demist and defog. Not ideal, really not ideal. The only physical button here is the hazard one. And also, yeah, I mean, the old Land Rover thing about buttons being easy enough to push with your gloves on, that's not going to happen if you need to put all-wheel drive lock on while you're off-road in your gloves. It's just, yeah. I really, really don't like it when cars have no buttons in them, and this is among the worst offenders I've come across, up with Tesla and MG, really. Steering wheel, I do still get some proper buttons. It's humongous. I like it. It reminds me of driving a pickup truck. Rob does not like it. He says it's stupid. Lots and lots of buttons on it though, which is a good thing. So I've got my radio controls here, which is a blessing because I don't even know how I would do the volume on there. Oh, actually, I pull it down from the top and then I've got 3 different volumes at once, and one of them's the brightness, which obviously makes lots of sense. So volume is there, phone, speech. Weirdly, the steering assist is on the left-hand side, but all the other cruise stuff is on the right, which is slightly odd. So I can do a speed limiter or my radar cruise control here at the top, set, distance, swipe through the menus on here variously if I want to see various things. And also if I do change the drive mode, then I do get a slightly different display in the center as well. So that's sports mode there with a kind of traditional round dial, and then I've also got winter mode, low traction, which has less dials. Oh god, stop going away, and then back to normal. I've also got paddles, probably unnecessary, although I suppose you could lock it in a lower gear if you are off-road. That's actually quite handy. Storage in here though is quite good. They've done a very good job of making the cabin feel very spacious because they've got this nice pass-through here, a kind of plinth with your cup holders on it. So I've got 2 cup holders here. I've got a wireless Qi charger down here for my phone, and then also this space where you can pop your phone, and you can pop your cable through the bottom of that cubby, so you can have your phone kind of standing up charging while you're using Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. You can use it wireless, though it won't let me use my phone wireless, and it claims my phone doesn't support it, even though my phone supports it in any other car with wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. So a few software issues, I think. There's another kind of small shelf here, and then you've got your 2 USB-Cs in the front and a 12-volt socket. Really big storage space underneath as well, and you've got storage space in the center console, which is of a good size also. I've also got a nice full-size glove box and huge door pockets with, again, 2 cutouts for bottles in them. Very practical indeed. I don't have a sunglasses holder, but I'll forgive them because there's so much storage everywhere else. The seats themselves, I quite like them. As I've said, they're heated and ventilated, fully electric. The driver's one has adjustable lumbar support. I can get in a very comfortable driving position. There's plenty of adjustment, and in the steering wheel as well. So it goes in and out and up and down. I think, though, the only thing left to go and do is drive it. So let's do that now. Right, driving the Torres AWD, all-wheel drive. Let's start with some basic figures. So this comes with a 1.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine and a 6-speed automatic gearbox. Those are the only powertrain and gearbox options on the all-wheel drive. It's actually the only petrol or ICE powertrain they offer. Full stop, no hybridization here. 161 bhp, 0 to 62 in 10.8 seconds. So not particularly quick, although fairly urgent in-gear acceleration, I will say. The downside is there's only a couple of other cars in segment that offer drive lines like this. So there's the MG HS and there is the Omoda 5. Both offer just kind of Bogo turbo petrol engines of similar displacement and similar power levels. And the thing with those cars is they're 25 grand and more aerodynamic and lighter than this. So this ends up having really not particularly brilliant fuel economy, because also those cars are just front wheel drive. The front wheel drive version of this will achieve fairly easily 30 mpg, which isn't great, but probably manageable. I have been getting in this 26 to 24 mpg, depending on driving conditions. That's rough. That is not dissimilar to the fuel economy I achieved in a Jeep Wrangler with off-road tyres. Now, KGM developed their own engines, so potentially part of the issue here is they currently don't have enough money to bother redoing this engine, which came out around or over a decade ago now, I believe. But there are other engines on the market. My key example of this would be the VW EA888, the 2-litre unit that they put in all of their kind of hot stuff, that's been around for much longer than that and will achieve, well, better economy actually, even though it's larger and more powerful. So some of the blame must fall on this gearbox, and I do get it. In the front wheel drive version of this gearbox is rough. Now in here it's much smoother. It seems to change in a more intelligent way, in a smoother way. When I put my foot down, it kicks down without too much trouble. And also, some of the other issues I had, wheel spin was horrendous in the front wheel drive version of this. Probably the most wheel spinny car I've driven of the past 5 years. This obviously is much more controlled. It also doesn't understeer anywhere near the way the other one did. Overall, as a car, it's much, much better just by adding that all-wheel drive, and I feel personally it fixes the image issue I had with the car, which is it looked like this massive roughy-tufty off-roader, but it had no tangible capability, whereas this has an actual all-wheel drive system and some off-road functions, so it should be able to back up its looks a little bit better. And I like this car. It has character. It's likeable, but it's really difficult to recommend it to you, the viewer, or anyone else, just based on that fuel economy. That's really steep. And I would love it if they could just put a hybrid system in here. It thinks the speed limit is now 80 miles an hour. I'm in a village. It's definitely 30. A hybrid system or a manual gearbox would probably give you better fuel economy. It's a tricky recommendation with fuel prices where they are. Obviously, if you're watching this from a market where fuel is much cheaper, then go for it. This makes sense then. It's comfortable, spacious, practical. It's got an all-wheel drive system, and it starts to all add up. It's just, you know, when you're spending £1.40 a litre, then 30 to 26 mpg is tricky. I'm going to talk about rides. That's another thing that wasn't so brilliant on specifically the petrol front-wheel drive variant of this. I've got to say the EVX, I've done a review on the EVX. Rob did the review of the standard car. the EVX rode beautifully. This also rides better than the front-wheel drive car. I can still feel how large these wheels are. There's a bit of jiggle over small breaks in the road. Roll is very well contained. It does pitch a little bit under harsh acceleration and harsh braking. But in general, the ride is better than it was previously. I know this has been a very comparative review. I am aware of that. But I feel it's important to make the difference clear, because obviously this does cost more money than the front-wheel drive model, and I do think it's worth the money despite the fuel economy penalty. Just overall, it vastly improves the character of the car to have an all-wheel drive system under it, and I believe justifies the overall platform of the car in general. I think let's go and see if it's actually made of anything underneath. I'll go and try and find an unmetalled road, see how it handles that. Right, we are actually now on a little bit of a full off-road. Rob is out of the car, poor lad, with a phone to film me from the outside. So I'm going to try and go up a little bit of a hill. We've actually already come down here, so I do know it should do it. I've got all-wheel drive lock on. Now this bit's stony, so the only thing I'm worried about is the low profile tyres. But the key thing is, you can't get up a hill like that with two-wheel drive. It's too slippy. It's not going to happen. And it does work in this, which is the important thing. Right, so it will actually go off-road. So let's go back and do our conclusion. So, what am I thinking about the KGM Torres? Well, it's got lots of the things I like about the other model: the practicality, the space on the inside, the interior design, the exterior design. It's improved some of my big drawbacks. It's now actually a usable soft roader. I feel like there's some purpose behind the styling, but it's still not economical enough. 26 mpg is really hard to swallow, especially when you're approaching 40 grand. There are much more reasonable choices on the market, and I would really like to see it actually have a few more off-road features and options of some better wheels as well. If you need to check out a family crossover with some actual off-road capability, then I would go and look at this, but otherwise save yourself some money on petrol and get a hybrid. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and most importantly subscribe. You'll find all the links to all of our social medias down in the description. You'll also find two ways you can support the channel. So we have channel merchandise, which I'm currently wearing some of, and we also have channel memberships right here on YouTube. So please go and do one or all of those things, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.